Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So, really happy that you are assisting to us with us today to this conference. The topic of today is Introduction to Self-Knowledge. And my name is David. I'm an instructor volunteer from Gnosis Deutschland. Gnosis Deutschland and Gnosis Netherlands is part of Gnosis International. This is an institution with no profit, and this institution that is already present in many countries in the world, in all the continents already. So Gnosis Deutschland, the base is in Cologne, and Gnosis Netherlands is based in Rotterdam. The topic of today, as we said, is introduction to self-knowledge, and I would like to start to present and to talk about our guy that is the Master Samael Aun Weor. He was the founder of the Gnostic institution in this 20th century. He was synthesizing the millennial Gnostic techniques, adapting them to our time. This is because the Gnostic techniques are not from this era or from not these years. It's something perennial, something that has been there in all the times, in many of the eras of this humanity and others. And they have been going through different times, and this time Master Samael was adapting into our time because, of course, every time and every, let's say, humanity, it has his own characteristics, and for that reason, it needs to be adapted as well. So he wrote more than 78 books about the universal wisdom, and all of these books, they were touching different topics, most of the times interconnected, and topics such as alchemy, metaphysics, revolutionary psychology, natural medicine, astrology, Kabbalah, ancient civilizations, and also the synthesis of religions. If you see, it's a really big spectrum of the wisdom, touching many pillars of our society and many topics that could be actual also today, but also many centuries and years ago, right? So pretty interesting. At the end of this presentation, we are going to share with you also the link of a website where you can access to some of these books. Most of them, because Master Samael and also together with another person has wrote books in Spanish, so you can find a vast number of Spanish books. But we have it also in different languages, including English, where you can look at these books, read them, and they are for free. They are not cost. I would like to continue with the Cave of Meat from an important philosopher that is Platon. This myth is a really good practice to start, but also to not just now, after with the time, if you can search it, you can look at it again. It's a really good exercise for the purpose of the self-knowledge. So this myth is talking about a group of people who has burned in a cave. They were prisoners, so they were in chain. And as you see in the left side of the picture, this person has born and grow up in this cave. They were chained in the way that they were just able to look to the side of the wall. They were not possible to look to the other side, to the back side. So they grow up with this atmosphere, with this ecosystem, with this surrounding, thinking that everything that they see, that they perceive, was the reality, because they have nothing else to what we compare. So in another side of or let's say in another room of the cave, there was a big fire who was producing light, and there was also persons who were passing with some figures between the light and the little space that projects the light to the cave where the prisoners are. These figures are representation of the world. but they are not really the real world. They are just features. This is pretty interesting because then they were projecting the shadows on the wall where the prisoners, they were looking at it. And for them, these shadows, they was the reality. They were the only things that they were looking at, the only things that they can perceive for the real world. Let's call it for the real world, for the world outside, let us say. So these prisoners grew up, and one day, one of them is able, for some reason, is able to escape, to get on chain, and for him, it's possible to get out to the real world. When he go out, as you see in the picture in the right side, this prisoner is, for first time in his life, he can see the trees, see the clouds, see the sky, see the rocks, see the animals, and even he realized that the sun is also one of these big lights, also creating shadows also in the world. So he can also see the shadows of these figures, how they are produced, and then he understand what he was looking inside in the cave was just a shadow, was just some silhouettes of what the real world is. So all of these colors, all of these smells, all of these new almost reality, but almost all of these vibes, completely vibrating colors, smells are amazing for him. And he feels deep inside that he needs to come back to the cave and share it with another prisoners and help them to escape, because he feels that this is something that it needs to be shared, right? So the person go back and he tries to convince to another. He tries to not convince, to explain, and then to expose what he has lived, and yeah, and in some way to motivate them to go out to. But then all the prisoners, because they have lived just in this reality, in this context, they think that he was damaged by some reason, by the light or by something, and just for the fact that he went out of the cave, that he might be just wrong, lying, or even ill, or in some way mad. But so he feels a little bit pity, but because he's trying to share all of that, and it's not possible for him to make them understand that there is all of this reality outside there. So this meet, I will end up this meet here, because just to try to go a little bit more deep into this meet, into this actually analogy, is also how sometimes happens to us in this world. But we are going to be also remembering this meet. I will leave it at this point in this here. We will later also take it back, and you will see why it's super interesting. And it doesn't finish just there, so you can still using it for many things. So at this point, I would like that all of us, we make a questions ourselves. Let's do it. Is where do we walk? Does we know where do we walk? And does we know where does we live? Does have we stopped any time to make these questions, to look around, or to look even somewhere that we have not looked any time before? So pretty interesting, right? To start to try to answer these questions just as an exercise in this time of, we will think in the outside world as the is where we walk, and we can question what is here. So when we look outside, where we are walking as a persons, we can see big cities or small cities, big societies or small societies, middle societies. All of them, they have more or less the same, right? They have buildings, they have lights, they have cars. There is also bicycles, there is motorcycles, there is people running, there is people going to the work, coming back to the work, purchasing articles. Uh, everybody's really busy in the routines. in the responsibilities, because they are also responsibilities, right? We need to sometimes respond to somebody, but also sometimes we need to take care of somebody or some things. So we see all of these big complex world outside where we need to walk, because we need to go to work, we also need to go to school, we also need to go to see family and take care of them, or share with them time. Or so all of this world is the place we walk. But I invite you to make it yourself, also to look at there, and then we can go to the next one, that is the inner world, where we live. And what is here? Here is where also the things start to get more interesting. I don't know if you or somebody of you have taken the time to really look at yourself inside. What is happening when you are angry, when you are happy, when some emotions are moving? So this is super interesting, because in these times we have been taught that we need to look things outside and go here and go there. But unfortunately, we have not get any kind of teaching, any kind of hint, even to see what is inside in the inner world. How does we feel? How do we manage that? And even if there is some science that have tried to develop, study, but they still be really not enough, right? Not enough, and maybe not in the right way. So, but this is something that we can do, everybody. We can go, take a time, take 5 minutes from the work, from the activities, and look what is happening inside us. What is going on? What is moving? How I feel? How I am acting? Why I'm acting like this? This is a pretty interesting beginning of the self-knowledge. For that, man, we can say that man knows the world in which he walks, because we know it seems like today in the days we are hyper connected. We know with applications, telephone, computers, radar systems, where we are. We have maps of everything. We have data, numbers. Apparently, we know exactly when it's going to rain, when is going to happen that, when is going to happen that. But this person is ignorant of the world in which he lives. So we are super focused in the outside, how to take the train, how to take the plane, what are you going to eat, but we forget also how is in the inner world, in our being inside, what is happening, what I am eating inside, also for inside, because we don't just eat with the stomach. We also receive images, we also receive sounds, we also receive sometimes even in the interaction we receive something. But what is this, right? What is happening in this process when I'm interact with people that is in some emotion? So all of these kind of things we have not been helped, teach, support, or even trained to interact and to understand what is happening there. So for this, we can ask the next question, that will be, is it dangerous to live in a world without we know it, without knowing it? And next question will be, what is the importance of these two words? The first question is important because let's imagine that we go to, for example, a place to pick up an article in a big hall where the light is completely dark. Nobody told us what kind of floor is there, what kind of obstacles. Just we realize that it's complete dark. So we start to look for this article there. First of all, it's going to be really difficult to find it, but the second, we can find a lot of obstacles that we can hurt, and we can get hurt, and we can crash, we can fall down. So the second question, what is the importance of these two words? Because we live and we have to act a lot of activities in the in the world we walk. That means in the society, in the family, in the work. But we need also to don't forget the inner world. So now we're going to deep a little bit more dive in this relation between both of them. And for that, we could remember what Immanuel Kant once said. The outside is the reflection of the inside. This is a good way of summarize a little bit what we said today. Is more deep. We could have a lot of time to describe reflection, make reflections about all of this. But what in this sentence is summarized is about that how we feel, how we act, how we develop our insight is going to be acting or have consequences also in the outside. So all of us, we have any time when we don't feel good and we are not able, for example, to interact with the outside world. So if we take as example one person that maybe had a bad day or had a really bad day, where this poor person just the first half of the day has a really bad day in the work, then some nice news from the personal life, and then this person start to feel bad, right? Start to feel emotional bad, start to feel worry, start to feel chaotic in the mind. And then for that reason, the second part of the day, maybe in the work, maybe in the life of the family, he's not concentrated and he's not able to interact with this world. He's already creating also even some problems there, like not paying attention, forgetting things. But this is just a small level of this. Imagine if we could really deep dive in our inner world, and then not just that. Imagine if we can go discover what is wrong, what is right, what it helps, what it doesn't, what it works, what it doesn't work, and then we start to fix it. We start to work on it. We start to improve it. Then imagine what could be outside, right? This is super powerful, and the possibilities are amazing. So that's why we arrive to the next question: is why do we need self-knowledge? So we live in the world that we don't know deeply, and this is exactly why I was making this example. Because if we don't know it, is pretty sure that we ignore it and we cannot do anything about it. Also, living in a world we don't know brings us all kinds of dangers, problems, and conflicts. Again, as the example, this person start to create problems outside because doesn't know his inner world, because his inner world is also taking all the concentration, attention. So, and this is just a small little detail. When we extrapolated, when we escalated, when we put also another situations that are even more drastic, more that has a bigger impact. Imagine we don't desire that to anybody. We hope that everybody is fine and has a life in harmony. But these things happen, right? And happens to everybody in any time. So it's pretty interesting how this inner world reflects outside. And as we said in the beginning of the conference, we have not received any preparation to awake in the world we live in. So today in the world, we have super concentrated in the outside, looking in the outside, preparing outside, accumulating things outside, also knowledge. But what about the inside? What about the inner world? This world we live in defines what our existence will be. As we said, if we start to forget it, or start to have situations inside without any kind of attention, preparation, or work, then we are pretty more sensible or fragile, or even we could be victims of these situations that bring us then outside another situations, more complex and more difficult to understand. So, Master Samael said, speaking in Socratic language, we will say that the enlightened ignorant, the sleeping profound, the unconscious machine, not only ignores, but also ignores that it ignores. Not only does he know, but moreover, and what is worse, he doesn't know that he doesn't know that he doesn't know. So I will leave it that we reflect about it by basically what Master Samael was sharing with us is that the difficult part, or one of the most difficult parts, is already to discover that we live in the cave, like the myth, that the cave is just a cave, that there exists the possibility, and not just that we can prove, we can live this process of going out of the cave and meet with the sun, with the trees, with the horses, with another human being. We have this possibility, but first of all, we need to know that we that might be just a cave, and that the brother that sometimes came to us to say there is something else there, open the possibility and not just believe, but remove the change, walk and explore it and live it by ourselves. Why Master Samael use words as unconscious machine? Because today in the world is sad, but if we see ourselves how we live, some of the times we fall into this routine that is so repetitive and so unconscious that it seems like we are just repeating as machines, that it will look like we are asleep, just repeating and repeating and repeating. And even worse, sometimes even reproducing these systems and models that we have learned. And how sometimes we just educated, just we act and accept it. So let's leave it there and let's make a reflection. I invite you to take a reflection on that. It's super interesting and it has so many sides that could be used that is recommendable to do it. To the conclusion to all of that, we arrive in the point that we live asleep in our inner world, so we don't know what is happening there. Sometimes we dream, but we don't know why we dream or what is these dreams. So we live asleep in our inner world without realizing that we're asleep. That is worse. That is the worst thing. But I'm pretty sure that all of us that we are attending to this conference is exactly because we have feel this hint, this little, how to say, these little bubbles, this little click, this curiosity, this interesting that yeah, that might be living in a cave, or that might be something else, or that the sun outside is also feeling live and vibrating. So for that reason, we also let's have a look also what is the man that is unrealized. Why we say that is asleep, that is in this situation, and this is because there is lack of clarity about the true is. As we said again in the cave, they were these prisoners. They were thinking that that was reality, but they were not having certain of that. They just believe it. So there is the lack of that, no? This man is a victim of himself, of the circumstances, of the events, of criticism, of price. And this is also is pretty good that here is, for example, we have put price, because not this asleep, this way of not being aware of that, awake, is sometimes is from the bad situation, as we put in the example before, but this also happens in the super good situation, right? So sometimes politics or sometimes stars in the TV, they live also asleep in this prize, in this applause, in this congratulations. So just just inviting to make these reflections. Lies within psychological system that limit the possibilities of this existence. This person also, this kind of person that also lives in these systems that go even into the psychology. Today in the day, we have also these examples of the social media, of the patterns and of beauty patterns, of how to dress, and all of this at the end also could fall into psychological systems. So it's interesting, and it's necessary to pay attention that has difficulty understanding his psychological flows and transforming them into virtues. This is because the person who doesn't first know that he needs to change, is completely impossible then that it will be transformed, these defects or these flows, into something beautiful. Why? Because when we stop to one defect, one fall, then automatically this transform in something beautiful, in some skills, in some virtues. And already this person already has a programmed and mechanical life, therefore he's unable to create his own destiny. Again, is the idea or the example of one person that is victim of his situations, to don't know how to interact or to these situations in the inner world or the outside world, together with the mechanical repetitive systems that is day to day, because of course the person need to go to work, the person need to go to school, the person need to take care of family. But the problem is not that. The problem is falling into this mechanical repetitive life without be possible to drive this, not that these situations drive to us. So then we could ask, where is the key to this development of our infinite possibilities? And the answer to that is consciousness. Consciousness is what brings light and also brings this key to develop, first to start, but also to develop these possibilities that are in the inner world of everyone, of every person. There is no difference of who yes and who no. It's just matter of the will to do, and then the real action. It means put it in practice. Let's going to have a look in what is knowledge, also in the past, but also as today, compared to what Gnosis. It says, first of all, I would like to say Gnosis is coming. The name Gnosis is coming from the ancient Greek, that it means self-knowledge, and it doesn't mean that it was created in Greece. It just means that it was in Greece where it got more extended. But Gnosis has existed in most of the in all the societies, cultures, and many times is something that is there and has been, and it will be. So knowledge today, most of the times in the left side is you can see what is for today's in the day, and in the right side more for the Gnosis as a teaching. So in the left side, today's the knowledge is understood as something more exterior, something that we need to go and look outside in Bible tech, in internet, in social media. Even in the past, you need to go to school, but it was most of the times really connected to accumulate intellectual property, intellectual knowledge, to also collect books, read and read and read. Compared to Gnosis, Gnosis also tell us it's not that we don't need to read or we don't need to go to school, but we need to find also the way to look inside of us. And moreover, we need to find a balance. because of course we could not also live in the inner world, so just there, no. So we have responsibilities, activities, so but not just the exterior. Let's going to look also in the interior. The next level is think that knowledge, or to analyze in today, is thinking as intellect. As I said, something intellect, something that is books, that is titles, even titles, right? Sometimes even more titles somebody has, it seems like more intelligent and more conscious has, but it's not. It's um, or in the other side, gnosis also recognize intuition as another way of knowledge. It's also the inner knowledge, and again, it's a study here, but also practice outside and inside. And then the next word is tell us that also is mine, and we kind of cultivate and today even there is this competition to see who knows more, but it's not about accumulating words or terms or theories. It's also about consciousness, about to real knowledge, to go and investigate by ourselves and discover ourselves and discover insight. And then it comes the next word, that is episteme, that is make reference to theoretical knowledge. And it refers to also how today science and intellectual people and societies, they make theories and theoretical statements about what should be or could be, but in another gnosis we receive practices and techniques for the direct knowledge. It means, and this is something beautiful and really interesting, we live it. We are invited to use this practice and technique to really discover the inner world and have the direct knowledge. It means you as a person, you will live it, you will experiment it, you will have this experience, and then step by step uh, recuperate this consciousness, this knowledge that it comes to consciousness. So, to quote another important philosopher, who is Socrates, there is he said also that the true knowledge from within, so from the inner world, and this is because if we don't know ourselves inside, is practically impossible to understand also and to know outside. There will be a life unbalance. And also Jesus, it says, we found this sentence in the Bible that said, and you will know the truth and it will set you free. Because once we start to know the truth, that it could be compared also to consciousness, we start to be free for all of these mechanisms, mechanic life, systems, repetitive things. We start to be free of these emotions. I ask to you, if would be not beautiful and amazing, would be not even super enlightened to don't feel any more press of sadness or press of another kind of emotion that block us or stop us to do things. I find it super interesting. I find it super motivating. So for all of that, Gnosis, as I said before, is a Gnosis is institution, a school, a teaching, a universal knowledge, who give us techniques, practices for starting this self-knowledge, this consciousness. And the first part of this practice is the first chamber. We call it first chamber, and it could be called a course. It's a Gnosis course. It has a number of conferences, and it's open for everybody. We in Gnosis Deutschland in Cologne, we are having courses in different language. In my case, I I do it in English and also Spanish, but there is also another persons and also volunteers who do it in another languages, such as German, Spanish, of course, Portuguese, French. And the requirements for that, for assisting to that course, first is to connect to us, to contact us, request it. But the requirements are interested. We really motivate that if you have the interest, just reach us, contact us. Frequency, because it's a number of conferences that are interconnected one to the next. So if you don't are committed to do it, or if you lose something, it's probably that it will be more difficult for the person to understand the next conference. And the next one is punctuality, because punctuality is important to take serious some kind of changes, because it's beautiful, but it needs the will, and it needs the punctuality, the responsibility, because it's just the only way that these changes and all of this effort you are going to do also brings results. But we really welcome you, and we really also motivate you to join these courses if you feel the interest, and reach to us. Go to, you can, as said, you can start in Gnosis Deutschland, also Netherlands. And here, as promised, it is the link to our Gnostic library, where you can access to read a lot of books in different languages: German, Dutch, English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Italian. And some volunteers, as me, we are going to be super happy to share all of this teaching. It could be also in the course, in the first chamber, but as well, every Sunday we are sharing some open conferences as this one. I just would like to repeat, this is no cost, this is no profit organization. So all of these courses are free. The conference on Sundays as well, the first chambers as well. We just invite you to connect with us. So thank you so much for the time today. I hope it was helpful for all of you. I will like to ask you if you have any questions, any questions who are there. That will be the right time. I will check the chat, and if there is some questions, we will answer here as well. We will try to answer here. In case there is not, I want to wait some minutes, but in case it's not, then I will invite you to the next Sunday. I guess the next Sunday is in Spanish. But if you have received this link, also keep an eye for the next conference in English or Spanish. And again, checking the link for the books. Well, seems like no questions. So thank you so much, everybody. I wish you a really nice day wherever you are, and hopefully see you here or with another volunteer also joining the conference.